Good afternoon, Gerad Hall.
Hey, Josiah, man.
Welcome to
What's happening, Captain?
Disformed podcast. We're back.
Disformed. How you feeling?
Feeling good.
Feeling good? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You look great.
Thanks, man. I've actually gained a couple pounds.
Have you? Maybe that's why you look better.
Intentionally.
You seemed a little too too
frail.
thin.
I felt frail.
Like, was it Skeletor from He-Man?
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I took all this time to try to cut, and then I cut too much. And I'm like, okay, well, let's reel this back in a little bit.
Yeah. And it's a little bulking season.
So I had 4, what's that cookie company called? Crumble cookies.
Oh, yeah.
So I switched from
Cookies and Dreams.
to Crumble.
Okay.
Mistake.
Probably going to lose our sponsorship from Cookies and Dreams.
Mistake.
With that kind of...
Never again.
Never?
No.
Not as good.
Not even close.
Sorry, Crumble.
Sorry, Crumble.
If you were thinking about sponsoring us,
Yeah. Listen,
we can talk.
our locally owned Cookies and Dreams is goated.
You know, I'm really impressed by how far they've expanded.
Yeah.
You know, you go up to Naperville and they've got a store there.
They're in Hy-Vee and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried my recommendation yet?
Oh, isn't that a homemade cookie of some kind?
Well, no, not the cookie, but the Molly's Cupcakes.
No, I need to do that. I need to try that.
I was really hoping you'd go smash.
Gosh, I
some of
forgot
those.
about that. Yeah. Maybe that's on this Friday night's cheat night plan.
Maybe when you're done with golfing, after one of these podcasts, we could go do that.
No way. No, I got a better idea. It just came to me.
Okay.
Let's bring Molly's Cupcakes to the next podcast.
Smash them
and
on the podcast.
let's sample them on the air.
Game. Yeah.
I'm in for that.
I'll order the mini ones though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can do a sampler
Yeah,
platter?
we'll do like a little variety thing.
All right. I'm going to leave it for my calories. How are you feeling?
Oh, man, it's been a ride, you know? Like, I've done everything in the last 9 days.
Everything.
Everything.
Congratulations.
Man. I've done everything. Yeah.
What do you mean by everything?
I've done everything. I preached at a Messianic congregation 2 Shabbats ago. The next day I was back in Chicago preaching at our friend Matt Sweetman's church, Trinity Church in Chicago.
Shabbat is Sabbath for those that are wondering. Right,
yeah, it's just it's the Hebrew pronunciation of Sabbath, which is what we get our word Saturday from. And on Monday, I did yard work. Tuesday, I took my son and his 3 friends to the world's largest arcade for a late birthday trip.
Yeah.
Have you done a guys trip yet with like...
I haven't. I need to. My son's at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had not road tripped with my son and 3 of his friends before.
Yeah.
It was just to like Chicago suburbs, but oh boy.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot. And to be honest with you, the idea of it stresses me out.
Yeah.
They are so wild, goofy, and out of control. My daughter was just so much easier to go on trips with.
Yeah. It made a lot of sense.
Sorry for neglecting my son.
When I thought about it 2 months ago, and I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Whoa, boy.
But you were exhausted after that.
Yeah, and then I did, my middle son, we did a trip the next day for his late birthday trip. And then, I catered Louis Knutson's album release party last night.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
You catered it.
I catered it,
So you made the food?
Yep. Yeah.
Is this a new gig you're doing?
No. But I mean, I've been cooking since I was a kid and have worked in some kitchens and done catering events before. But yeah, so
nice.
he asked me to cater.
So
the
what'd you
party.
make?
I made pulled pork sliders, pork belly burnt ends, slaw, baked beans. Yeah,
My guy.
it was good, bro. Yeah, I think people enjoyed it.
2 podcasts from now, we'll do the
And we can
Gerad
do,
catering sampler platter.
we'll do that. My son played in his first 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Did you ever play in those when you were growing up?
Yeah. Slam. What was it called?
Hoop Fest.
Hoop Fest.
Yeah, bro. Did you play in Hoop Fest?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that was awesome.
We were at Tug Fest and we did that.
That's cool.
In Port Byron. So
Your son played. You were there just kind of.
yeah, I'm so glad I busted my ankle in April. I totally would have been like, you know what? I'm going to call up Josiah. I'm going to call Matt Vogel. We're going to do a pastor's 3-on-3 team.
I would love it.
And then I was down there. I was like, man, there's some big boys down here. Like, they're going to, I mean, some just like big.
There's some guys that still run at the Y all the time.
Yeah. So yeah. And they, you know what? They were guaranteed 3 games, which, I mean, when we used to play, it was like.
Double donation?
Yeah. You had 2. That was, you were guaranteed. You know, so they ended up with, what 6 games they ended up with?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they're 4-2, or yeah, I think so. So, anyways, yeah, man, and then Friday Tugfest events, hiking with some family who were in town at Wildcat Den, and man, I'm telling you, just ran the gamut for like 8 days.
It's awesome,
bro. Now I'm here and just
You're a stellar dad.
ready to rest with you.
Yeah.
Relax.
Are there any hot button topics we want to touch before we get into the main one, or not really?
I feel like it would be a shame not to at least go a little bit into the tragic event on Thursday at the CrossFit Games.
Oh, geez. I didn't know you were going to go there.
Where did you think I was going to go?
I don't know. Something political or something, but yeah.
I mean, I'm proud of USA for winning the gold in basketball. I thought Chef Curry was cooking, and that was amazing.
Yeah, but I guess the CrossFit thing is relevant too. We both do CrossFit. And
both do CrossFit. Yep, both been a part of that community, and yeah it was. For those who don't know, there's an athlete who drowned in the first event on Thursday morning in Fort Worth, Texas, and it was an open swim event, only an 800-meter swim, and the athlete was very gifted in the water. Had actually been a water polo player and so forth, and so there's not a lot of details still pending an autopsy, but definitely the most tragic thing that's ever happened at a CrossFit Games.
Oh, for sure. And what was really odd about it was the two guys on the paddleboards he literally seemed to be right in the middle of both of them.
Yes.
And I mean, it wasn't as close as from you to me.
No, yeah, it wasn't like this.
But it was like it looked like 25 feet.
Right.
I mean, right there. And they just weren't even paying attention.
It didn't seem like they were prepared.
And then did you see the guy in the audience jump in?
No, I didn't see that, no.
They had noticed it. They were pointing and shouting.
Right.
Something's wrong. Someone jumped in, started swimming out there, and the guys on the paddleboards told him to turn around.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I've talked to a lot of guys about this. I mean, without getting into the philosophy of the problem with CrossFit, which obviously I have big opinions on that after owning a gym for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
I talked to a couple triathletes, and they're like, "Well, this is why the swim is first."
Yeah, and I did read one triathlete who said. I think last year in the United States, even with the swim first, there were still like 21 people who died.
So I heard 115 people died last year.
Oh, that high?
That's what my buddy sent me this. He's a triathlete. He said 115 people died last year. If it makes you feel any better.
How far is this swim and the tri?
Well, I think it depends because there's sprint tries.
Sure, yeah. So they can be different.
All up to an Ironman, which is pretty long.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's a way higher number than I saw. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe that was just sprint tries or something he's talking about.
Sure, yeah. But yeah, and that's why the years that they've been doing swims at the CrossFit in open water, they're almost always the first event.
Yeah. Well, my big overarching problem, though, is that when I got into CrossFit and the games were just kind of getting off the ground.
Yeah, because the games kind of went from something that had almost no visibility to having all the visibility.
Basically on a farm. Out in California.
Yeah, it is a farm. Yeah.
Yep.
Dave Castro's family farm.
And then it moved to a more national stage when the Reebok sponsorship happened.
Right.
But what's happened or what it evolved into, and I'm bummed out about, and I think it kind of ruined the name of CrossFit, is it turned into just max volume. How much work can we make them do over 3 or 4 days?
Yeah.
If you know the philosophy of Greg Glassman and how he created CrossFit, it was like we want a well-rounded athlete.
Right.
That is capable in all 10 physical fitness domains. Coordination, metabolic condition, all the... So you can test that. I mean, you could test that in 3 simple workouts.
Yeah.
Right? You do a max lift of some kind, you've got strength.
Right.
You do a Metcon that has coordination, conditioning, 15, 20 minute. Then you do a long aerobic something. You know what I mean? It's not hard, but what we do instead is like, let's just beat them into the dirt. Yeah. And so what happened is the Games does this, and then because the Games is the national stage, is what everyone sees, well, what do you think gyms start doing?
Right, they follow suit.
How hard can we make our workouts? We have to do competition training, and we're all going to train like we're competitors, even though these guys at the Games are top 1% in the world.
Right, and they're doing it almost all of them now doing it professionally in terms of a career. It's very rare that someone makes it to the Games that has a side job or a main job, and that this is a side thing.
So consequently, we've just seen CrossFit churn out injured athletes for the last decade.
Yeah, and I think part of it with any sport evolution is that you got to find your sweet spot, and when you think about when the game started, for a man to do a dumbbell exercise that was a 70-pound dumbbell overhead was challenging.
Yep.
And now guys are doing 120 pounds overhead and women are doing 70, right? So it's kind of evolved. So then it's like, well, do you just keep making it heavier where it just blurs into a strongman competition? Or
so the only WOD that I ever won
yeah.
at the regional was a 100-pound dumbbell snatch, and it was 70 for the woman.
Really?
So it's funny that you bring that up. Me and Maddie won a doubles event at regionals.
Nice.
The only event.
I can see that. Yeah, but feel good. Yeah. Did you see Tia Claire Toomey win her 7th CrossFit Games?
I mean, yeah, just incredible.
After she won 6 in a row, year off, having a child, and then came back and won it.
It's crazy.
I mean, she ran a sub 5:30 mile.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
That's crazy. I mean, not shocking to me, but crazy.
Yeah, I mean
And so on that note,
it's a pretty fast mile.
That's super fast.
Yeah.
On that note, let's roll right into
having
priorities.
Babies.
No, so the topic today is priorities for a biblical family.
Yes. Yeah.
And you and I were talking before this, and I think it's a great idea. You want to start pre the family.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously for some people who are going to be joining us for this conversation are already in the process of they have a family and, maybe some things to figure out, just like we're all trying to figure it out. But I think ultimately, if I think you'd agree with this, if you can start the path for a family of biblical priorities in who you're looking to marry, that can set it's not necessarily an easy course, but at least an easier course in terms of the trajectory that you're on.
Yeah.
That you both want the same things and you're moving towards the same things.
Yeah.
I think alignment is so important.
Yeah.
So
starting off on the foot of, hey, I'm single and I desire a biblical family. What does it look like to date? What does it look like to find a significant other?
Yeah.
In the right way.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you've talked to your friends that are single in dating culture right now.
Ooh, man, it's rough.
I heard it's terrible.
Yeah. Now, okay. So, I mean, I've been married for 17 years.
Yep.
So things are obviously different. Smartphones didn't exist. There was no apps, right? So all that's different. My wife and I's first conversation was over AOL Instant Messenger.
Yep.
Right. So that gives a time frame in the early 2000s there. But I feel like especially after the hashtag Me Too movement, if you weren't meeting someone through a dating app, it would be really challenging because a dating app at least allows you to know that when you're engaging in conversation with a member of the opposite sex, that you have permission to engage it towards the end of dating.
Yeah.
We're doing it with like coworkers or people in church. Seems like that could go off the rails real fast of like, well, I was hitting on you. You were hitting on me. Like it was like, why would you be hitting on me? Like that would be like a really hard conversation, I think, today. Where like I think when you and I were growing up, to find someone of the opposite sex attractive and to flirt with them was not going to react in necessarily the same backlash as kind of the societal pressure cooker.
It's kind of sad. It's funny that you bring that up, but I mean, we've gone so far with the Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
That for a guy to even say, "Hey, what's your name? I think you're pretty."
Right.
It's like rape. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And that's makes it really difficult.
Yeah, and so I think, and obviously we have a problem with men in general right now in terms of escapism, playing video games, and people wanting to communicate through a phone instead of face-to-face like this, So there's some societal things that we need to get over there. But even if you do get over those hurdles and you have the courage to go and have the conversation, from my outside looking in, seems like a big risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think the priorities are? I mean, how would you approach it? Let's go from the male side first.
Yeah, so for me, so just like from my perspective, I was the kid who always perpetually had a crush on somebody.
Yep.
And so I found it incredibly life-changing when I was 21 And I remember exactly where I was at, where like a switch flipped of like, I've been looking for the right person, and I haven't at all been concerned with being the right person. Like my presumption was, I'm the right person.
Yeah.
Now I just need to go find the right person.
Yeah.
And then I went, oh, well, what is it about me that needs to change and be refined by the Lord before I'd actually be ready for this? And so then I was able to start going through a more intentional process.
That is so good. Bro, do you know how many times I have that situation? This is going to be offensive to someone listening from my church, but I'll just be honest. Do you know how many times I have that exact situation where I have a single person come to me and say, here's what I'm looking for?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, you're not that person.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I want that for you as well.
Yes.
But maybe God's not giving you this person yet because you're not that person
right.
yet.
And it's hard to attract that person if you're not that person, you know?
Exactly.
And so I think that's like starting point. And for me, I mean, some of the things I did is I tried to figure out how I receive love, how I communicate love.
Yeah.
Some of my, what am I actually passionate about? You know, what things are negotiable, like non-negotiables, what are negotiables. And for me, I really needed someone who's going to push me in my prayer life. Yeah. I knew that prayer, for me to go and serve, I'm happy to go do 1,000 things for God. For me to just sit and be with God and wait on Him, much more challenging. And that I was going to need somebody who was a prayer warrior and where prayer was more instinctual. As opposed to me, which was like, well, I tried 15 things and none of them worked, so I guess now I'll pray. You know? Yeah. And so that, you know, so kind of reflecting on where my gaps were spiritually and where I need like pushing, you know, and that I realized I didn't need someone that I was going to be trying to drag along to church or trying to convince them that Jesus was important. Like missionary dating was out. People who were lukewarm were out. You know, things like that.
So. Another thing I would like to do while we're talking about this is, can we talk about how a man biblically, like what's attractive to a woman, a biblical woman?
Well, we can certainly try that. I mean, we'll see if we get there or not.
I have some thoughts here.
Okay.
And I think they're biblical thoughts. I think that men are meant to be masculine men.
Okay.
I think men are designed for headship and leadership.
Yes.
I think that in our culture...
Wait. Are you saying that toxic masculinity is more attractive?
You know what's funny? I mean, the data's out on this. Well, the culture would label us toxic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to use a trigger word. That's all.
Yeah, but right. Yeah. You'd think of men that are strong in their opinions or, you know, lead and provide, and I'll get into a whole plethora of different things. But I think that it would be really helpful for some men that are listening to this is like, listen, if you are a more, I'm going to use a trigger word here, effeminate male, it's going to be more difficult for you to attract the woman you're probably desiring.
Yeah, and I think I would probably step back a little bit from that term just because
you want to be nicer.
No, because I think I met some Christian guys who are more effeminate but are not feminine. Right?
And I said more effeminate.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I would label well.
Yeah. So I think like our whole culture has a way of if a man has that biological bent, then they push them towards this box of homosexuality, right?
Yep.
And I've just met Christian guys who do a really great job of being masculine, even though if you met them, you would not necessarily gut reaction and go, they're masculine, but they actually are.
But here's my question, and what a topic. This could go for a minute.
Wow, yeah.
What a topic. But
okay.
If you are wired that way biologically, because there are men, we know men. I grew up in the church. There have been plenty of dudes that were very effeminate, almost to the point where some people are like, I think they're homosexual, but they're not, right?
Yeah, and
we see this.
Yeah, and having gone to a Bible college and living in dorms,
I know you've experienced this. Yep. So my question is, at what point do we not just say, "Oh, I'm biologically wired that way," and do we instead say, "Hey, what do we see biblically,
right,
in masculinity, in men, and is this something that I need to be pursuing actively?
Yeah.
Because here's what I know what women want. Women want to be pursued.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's really hard if you're soft-spoken, passive.
Well, and I think being pursued with intentionality.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably something I was even a little bit unsure of with my wife when I was pursuing her, that I think she wanted something even more direct than I was really at a point at. But I was really at a transitional phase, having just moved to Chicago, first semester of Bible college. And so not only am I figuring out, do I want to date her, I'm trying to figure out, should I even be dating?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And so that was part of my hesitancy.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so for you and Dee, y'all got married pretty young.
Engaged at 19, married at 20.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how did in your, reflection, how did that play out in your guys' relationship?
Which part?
The intentional pursuit.
Well, yeah, I was never without a girlfriend. Okay. I was one of those guys that like just had a girlfriend from the age of 11 until I was married.
Right.
Like when I found a girl, I went after that girl.
Yeah.
And so I pursued her pretty strong. She actually had a boyfriend at the time.
That was not going to deter you.
No, and I was like, you don't want to be with him. What are we doing?
Yeah, that guy's a joker.
6 months later, we were engaged.
Wow. 6 months.
Yeah.
All right, so when you were 19 and proposing, what was going through your head? Because that never even seemed like an option for me at 19 to propose.
I have raging hormones.
Okay.
And I'm ready to have sex.
Yeah.
And I need to be married to have sex.
You're like, you know what? I'll put a ring on it.
Honestly, no, it was more than that. I had spiritual mentors in my life.
Okay.
And they ended up being absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That, hey, if there was ever a woman made for you, this is the one.
You can't do better than this. This is God's perfect woman for you.
However you want to say it. But my wife is a gentle-natured, peaceable, and I am hard, direct.
Yeah.
And so we've always just kind of fit like a glove.
Right.
And obviously I've had to learn and change and transform to be a better husband to her, and still am trying, right?
Yeah.
Still have major flaws, but yeah, it was just a match made in heaven, bro.
Right. So how did you go about convincing her to ditch the zero and get with the hero?
I remember driving in her car and having conversations like, I think she knew, but knowing my wife now, for her to break up with someone is not easy.
Right.
So if I think she was honest, I think she was more scared about breaking up with someone than she was. I think she knew. So we would sit in pottery class, 18 years old, okay? And she'd sit next to me. She had a boyfriend.
In high school.
And like her leg would be like touching my leg like the whole class.
Yeah.
And like we'd have these extremely flirtatious tension moments.
Yeah.
Like it was kindling for a while.
Right.
And I knew that, she kind of followed me around at school, and she started to become my girlfriend without being my girlfriend. Like we didn't kiss, she didn't cheat on her boyfriend, nothing like that. But there was
a connection.
There's a connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you were to fast forward that obviously to today, we're talking to somebody who's in college or maybe already adult workforce kind of situation. What do you think pursuing looks like now?
Yeah, I think that goes back to a little bit of what I was saying. I think a man needs to be bold enough that they can walk up to a woman and say, hey, I think you're really pretty.
Yeah.
Would you be interested if I got your number or took you out for coffee?
Right.
Like that has to be okay in dating culture in the Christian church.
And so you'd say, if you find someone attractive, ask them out.
If you know they're single.
Right.
Not married.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And you're a man and they're a Christian woman.
Sure. Both believers.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. My thing has been, and I haven't done college age ministry for 6 years now, but at the time I was noticing that people weren't even willing to go on dates with people. And I think some of that had to do with the courtship culture that was developed from the purity movement from the late 90s, early 2000s, which is a whole nother conversation. Maybe it's part of this conversation, but saying it's okay to okay, that person's a believer, you're a believer, you find them attractive, they might find you attractive, to take them on a date without the expectation that you're now in a relationship.
Yeah.
That you're going to go on a date and you're going to find out what do you like and what do I like and what have you been through and what have I been through and where do you want to go and where do I want to go and does it make sense to go out again? And but I found that for a lot of them, they had the inability to just have that conversation without having their hope bucket overflowing already before going into it.
Yeah.
And so I think aligning your expectations of what the purpose of what dating actually is really important.
Yeah.
And for yourself personally to know, like, this is an exploration.
Yeah.
This is not, I'm not committed to something at this point yet.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, but I think men, what I was saying, I want to elaborate just a little bit more because my goal here is I'm thinking about the guy that's out there that's single.
Okay.
That wants a woman.
Yeah.
And I think becoming a godly man with, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, I've heard this word recently. I don't know how to say it right, but gravity. I think they use the
gravitas.
Gravitas.
Yeah.
Being a man, a godly man of gravity or gravitas, right?
Yeah.
In the sense, like, how do you carry yourself in the way that you dress?
Right.
How do you carry yourself in the way that you speak?
Yeah.
Because I do think innately, the Bible teaches that women do desire to be cared for, provided for, and led by a strong leader biblically. Right. That doesn't mean with an iron fist and abuse. It means, right, strong leadership.
How would you differentiate between self-confidence and confidence in the Lord? Because I hear where you're going, and I agree with having some presence and having ability to speak clearly. But at the same time, I think a person who's a borderline narcissist could pull that off really well.
Well, that's why narcissists get women.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But I don't think that's what we're trying to promote, though, either.
Not.
Right.
But I think that they may feel they will feel similar. Because there is self-confidence in someone that's confident in the Lord.
But if you're talking to a woman, how would you differentiate between a man who is embodying these things that you're describing?
So if I'm a woman and someone comes up, how am I differentiating this?
Yeah, right.
I mean, the strength of their faith life would be a big one. Okay. Because there's going to be godly humility in submission to the Lord.
Yeah.
Does this man submit to the Lord?
Right.
Right? Is church a priority?
Yeah.
Is community a priority? Is being biblically faithful? And you know what I mean? You can look for signs that are pretty evident. Or are they at church trying to find a girl? Because they can feel that as well.
Yeah. So I would say, who's their friends?
Yeah, their community. That's a big one.
You know, because I think for most of us, especially guys, if you look at who are our friends, how big is the circle, how small is the circle, how connected is the circle, that's going to reveal things about them.
Yeah.
And I think the narcissist usually walks alone.
Interesting. Yeah, that's probably true.
Like they may have followers.
That word is so interesting to me, though.
Which one?
We don't have to go down this road, but
which one?
Narcissist. It's thrown around so much.
Yeah, and that's why I said narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah. Because
I do think that clinical narcissism is actually very rare, but I think we do have an uptick
tendencies,
in narcissistic tendencies because of our social epidemic of me focus.
Yeah, I tell everybody that my buddy is a licensed therapist, and he told me that I have 3 of the 5 very strongly. But because I don't have the 2, I'm safe from being clinically diagnosed.
Dodged a bullet.
No, but it's funny to me on that where like every relationship breakup you see on Facebook or the internet, the other one was a narcissist every time.
Yeah.
We throw that term around.
Well, and so with breakups, especially divorce, the number one indicator that a couple is going to get divorced, I'll make sure I get the right.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say?
You want me to actually say
finish my sentence,
that when a spouse says something when they're looking for any kind of accolade and they don't respond to it and go about their day. This is from Jordan Peterson. Is that what you're going to use?
Yeah, so it's basically that idea, yeah. So it's not the word disgust. I'm having a mental fog. I'll drink
They're looking for
coffee.
mini affection triggers like, hey, honey, I did this at work today.
Yeah.
And then they're looking for an affection response.
Right, yeah. So the the other, so the term disgust, right? So when they, it's right on my tongue.
I hate that.
But when they look at each other and they don't see each other as having value anymore, right? So what happens is that if you look at someone and you've been hurt by them, or they kind of make you sick, then what you do is you have to label them something to justify what you're doing, right? And so what it is that you've created a narrative in your head, and so now you're putting out on social media, you're putting your narrative out there, and what you want is for people to like it, or even if they don't like it, if they have a sad face or a heart, or any kind, or a care, a half smile, half heart now, post COVID, some type of a response. That what it does is it goes, my narrative is true, right? And so we're just in this moment where you can pretty easily label someone a narcissist and get the clicks, and then you feel justified, right? And so it's one of the most dangerous things in life is our ability to build narratives and then go recruit people to support them.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I do, sorry not to go off on the topic of narcissism, but being a big personality, right? I've been labeled that by everyone that doesn't like me forever.
I think even the people who do like you.
No, but I think that I
think even your own mother once made of
whatever. I think one of the big ways that I try to protect myself from the tendencies, which I believe everybody has, but especially an extroverted leadership type, is empathy and compassion.
Right.
Because that's the big one that they miss, right? Yeah. I can't see from your perspective.
100%.
And thankfully, I don't feel like I don't have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I try, because I'm a pastor. I care about people's perspective and how they're feeling and whatnot.
Yeah.
I often don't care sometimes when I'm speaking, but afterwards I'm like, oh no.
Right. No, the fact that you have that ability means that you're not a narcissist. And that's why I try to explain to people is that if you're actually a textbook clinical narcissist, that is gone. Yeah. Like empathy, gone.
Yep.
Sympathy, gone.
Yep.
Like they literally need people to tell them how they ought to feel.
Yep.
Because they don't feel it.
And I think to bring that full circle, if I'm a girl and a guy because I am a girl, I do desire strong leadership. I desire a husband that can provide and protect.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I'm looking for a guy that's interested in my thoughts.
Right.
Interested in my perspective.
Yeah.
Because you can go on, you've been on, gone out with friends and you sit across from the guy that's like, he's never asked me one question.
Yes.
It's been all them talking the entire time.
100%.
And that's a big, you need to be careful.
All right, so two stories. First story, to the question part. So when I was in community college, I was going through my journaling phase. So I always had a journal with me. Yeah. And so the first coffee date that Missy and I had, we sat down like this, only we were flipped. And I was like, hey, I was just had some questions. And I pulled out my journal and I had some questions there that I had thought about asking her. And the intentionality that I had to come prepared with thoughtful questions to ask her, I won.
You got it. Nailed it. Hey, guys, write that one down.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you, every other person who's ever heard that story, and I almost never tell this story. That's maybe the second time I've told that story. Missy always tells the story. And everybody goes, you liked that? Didn't that feel like an interview? And she's like, but he was intentional. Like he wanted to know, like he asked and he listened and he asked clarifying questions.
He wanted to know you. And this is why Jesus was so amazing.
Right.
Right? Jesus asked a lot of questions.
Yeah. Now to the whole point about masculinity. So if anybody's listening to it and they're still stuck, 15 minutes ago when you first brought up the masculine part, they're like, that's not what women want. I want to tell you, I have a friend, 25.
Yeah.
He's in the process of taking a girl out on some dates.
Yep.
And he's texting her, he's calling her, he's paying for things.
Yeah.
He's driving, he's making the plan of what they're going to do when they go.
He's driving, he's pursuing.
Yes, right? And her response, also 25, she said, I've never once dated a masculine guy. And he's like, what do you mean you've never dated a masculine guy? And she's like, I've never dated a guy who paid for things,
Yeah.
or like we didn't go Dutch, or who had a plan, or who
Yeah,
was
and that's
pursuing-
what I mean by
right. She's 25
toxic masculinity, right?
and never
Yeah.
experienced intentionality,
Yeah.
right? And in my mind, I'm like, I was like trying to do that at like 14 in middle school.
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
And a funny example of this, and I think guys can learn from,
Yeah.
is the teenage game right now, because my daughter's 16.
Oh,
My daughter's
gosh, I'm so glad that you have the daughter and I have the boys.
right, and
Oh,
she's
man.
and she's a beautiful girl, and she's had multiple guys like her. But it's funny that my daughter's a driven, disciplined. She works out every day. She eats really well. You know what I mean? She reads her Bible. And consequently, that's what she wants.
Right. No, she wants someone who can keep up with her, right?
She wants a self-ruled masculine man. And
Yeah.
she tells me this all the time.
Yeah.
And the guys that have tried to date her, one tried to date her first boyfriend, kind of, whatever you want to call it. I mean, she dumped him in a week because he just wouldn't lead the conversations.
In
And
person or on the phone or both?
she talked to him in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't lead the conversations.
He wouldn't lead the conversations. He felt too nervous around her. And finally she threw her hands up in the air and was like, okay, I'm not doing this.
Right. Were you ever around a girl that was so attractive that it made you self-conscious and like tongue-tied?
I'm sure there were girls that made me nervous, but I was, dude, you know me, bro. I'm pretty confident.
You were a narcissist.
I had narcissistic tendencies. I probably thought I was better looking than she was.
Yeah.
No, not
she's
really.
fine. She's fine.
No, there were girls that made me nervous. I know what you mean.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about this poor guy, and he's probably just so intimidated, and he's just like,
Yeah, when you're 16 for sure.
This is all I can do, even be in your presence and just not run away.
I know, but have you ever seen those men that are like, they're probably not the greatest looking guys in the world. They're often short, but they are just confident and they just get the women.
Short king.
I mean, they get the women, and it's that confidence thing. Leave narcissists for a second. Confidence.
Yes.
Right.
No, I mean, I do think that's a part of it, because the fact that I ever had a girlfriend as a teenager is borderline miraculous. I mean,
Yeah, because you were quiet.
no, I wasn't quite at all. Like I've always been extroverted
Yeah.
and confident, and
Yeah.
I wasn't always very able. People couldn't understand me because of my. I had to take speech for 8 years, and it was actually after becoming a believer that I became more competent as a public speaker. But in terms of like being quick-witted and so forth,
Yeah.
and I was able to do that. But I mean, gap teeth, acne, bad haircut.
So it was a miracle.
I mean, like, but it was. I think to your point, it was like I had personality. Like,
That is so
Yeah.
big.
I think,
And I'm
personality.
saying this for the dudes out there trying to find their biblical woman. That's important.
Yeah, I think-
Confidence, leading,
Yeah.
pursuing.
Yeah, I think having a personality is important.
Yeah. No, but the recent one, sorry, one real quick to finish up my
Oh
daughter.
yeah.
The
Okay,
recent
so recent
one,
guy, yeah.
great guy, likes her, but his way to get to her is to go tell her cousin and then her cousin tell her.
Oh,
And if you know my daughter, she's like, "Pfft,
too late.
ruined. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, she wants a man to walk up to her and say, you know what? Sayla, I think you're pretty and I want to take you out. Like,
Now, would you prefer for that guy not to come around for a little bit?
me?
Yeah. You're like, honey, that's great that you want that, but I don't want that for at least another 2 years.
Well, she knows she's not allowed to date. Like, she's
Okay.
not allowed to outside of like a group of friends.
Sure, yeah.
We're not there yet, but I have been blessed that we've done a decent job at raising my daughter in a biblical home, and I'm pretty confident in how she'll deal with. So far I've been very impressed.
Do you think this is the reason why sometimes women marry older men?
Absolutely. What if women are honest?
Yeah.
Right? If women are honest, older men come with money, with stability.
Wow, you went right there. Okay.
Money, stability, confidence. And listen, please, women, post in the comments if you think I'm completely wrong.
Just give me a moment.
But realize this.
Oh my God.
I pastor a church, and I have significantly more single women than I do men.
Okay.
This
Well,
is a frequent conversation.
It's very common in church. It's very common. Yeah.
No, but
Okay.
more so, it's just frequent conversation that I have with a lot of single women.
I was saying the having more single women than single men in a church
I understand.
is common. That's all I'm saying. But okay.
Well, don't hear what I didn't say though.
Well, no.
I didn't say that women are primarily going after money, but it is a factor.
Okay. It felt like the way you went there so fast that maybe, leaving that one to like number 3 or 4 on the list.
Listen, don't be woke. Don't hear what culture hears.
I'm listening to you.
It matters to women that men are able to provide.
Sure.
There's more gravity or gravitas to a man who is provided well than not. And it's attractive to women. It should be attractive to women.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you heard your cultural Josiah saying that women chase money. That's not what I'm saying.
It felt that way, though, a little bit when you let off with it.
You watching CNN again, bro?
I don't like watching CNN at all.
I know, I've never watched it.
It's Don Lemon.
No, but that's not what I was saying. I was saying that.
Right, okay. So back to the question, though. Okay, so you would agree, though, that a woman being attracted to an older man would make sense because the older man would have the stability, the confidence, more self-assured.
More self-ruled, more confidence, more money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Know where they're going, disciplined, all that.
Yeah. I mean, dude, we are in I always get these two words. Pandemic is when it has to do with disease. Epidemic is when it has to do with some kind of endemic. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah. So the difference between epidemic and pandemic both refer to health crisis.
What's the word I'm looking for?
An endemic, I think.
Endemic. Okay. Yeah. So the big cultural endemic, if that's what the word is.
Yeah. We'll find out in a second.
Right now is that men are just not, and this is Jordan Peterson's whole message, right? They're not growing up fast enough.
Yeah. I really like Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Have you taken any of his courses?
Oh, I just saw his new one come out, though, and I'm really interested in his schooling.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
People really, 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 really don't like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's because they've only ever listened to sound bites of him.
Yeah.
They haven't listened to full conversations that he has. But I think what he's calling men to is really important. And I look at it and I go, I wish that somebody who was an evangelical would do it. Because I think I'm not sure Jordan I'd put him in the confessing church yet. Like I
don't know what he is exactly.
In the last 8 years, his appreciation for the Bible and for Christianity has increased immensely, but I'm not sure
he's actually saved. Yeah.
He's Orthodox.
Yeah. I would agree.
So, but I would like for people to have philosophical conversations at the level that he's having and holding out a higher standard.
Yeah. And his big message really is to younger men that
endemic. Yep.
That haven't grown up, right? They're stuck in video game culture. They're stuck instead of being a self-ruled, educated, with a mission man.
Yeah. So how do you feel about men who play video games?
I see what you did there. I play video games.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, yeah. So I think...
But there's a big difference in what we do.
Yeah.
Right? Because we both are married with children, with careers, pursuing, building things, right? Like we have bigger mission in life that when I go home at night and at 8:30 at night I jump on with the boys to play some video games, that's different than what we're seeing now. The culture today is like I play for 8.5 hours a day.
And that's the nuance. So that's the nuance I wanted to get to, right? Is that I think it's so easy for people to go, well, this is the problem, or this is the problem, or this is the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not sure video games are the problem. I think the willingness to take the accomplishments you experience in a video game and make it fulfilling for your life's purpose is the problem, right?
Yep.
That the fact that you are living and breathing should be enough to cause you to go, there is a great purpose for me to be here, and I have a limited amount of time.
100%.
And I need to do as much as I can to make this world a little bit better as a result, you know?
Yeah.
And instead, it's like, I just sniped 30 people.
Yeah. Look at me Boom.
Right? It's like, no, that's great if you did that, but don't let that be what satisfies you.
Yeah.
Right? If that's an outlet, if that's a relaxation thing, if that's a communal thing, fine.
And again, one of Peterson's message, right? Lack of meaning and purpose.
Yes.
That's what it is. And that's the core problem.
Yeah. So if we go back to the original question in the dating conversation, I think finding somebody who has a high purpose and it's a shared purpose can be a great starting point.
Yep.
I don't think that I think secondary things are important too, like what you enjoy in terms of hobbies and activities and expectations of how you're going to run your household all matter too. But I think, okay, you have a high purpose, I have high purpose. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Do we want to tackle the opposite side of this coin that we haven't talked about yet?
Tell me what that is.
Well, we talked a lot about a man, what a man should be.
I would be more than happy to talk about what women should do. That sounds great, Josiah.
I'm asking, do you think biblically, though, right? How would you answer the question? Like, how should a woman become more desirable to a man?
Do I get to go first on this one? Oh. Sorry, I'm filtering through all my smart aleck responses, and I'm trying to get to something serious. But it's a pretty long Rolodex of things to say. I do think that, as I think back to finding Missy attractive and pursuing her, is that there has to be a willingness to sit down and have conversations. And so when I was in community college, I tried dating some girls, and I remember one girl in particular that I asked out, I've been in a class with her at Blackhawk, and didn't ask her out, but even after the class ended, I was still kind of like, maybe. And I was friends with one of the professors at Blackhawk who was teaching that class that we were both in, and I kind of mentioned it to her, and she goes, I got her in another class. And it was a class that I'd already been in. She's like, why don't you come in and perform for my class?
Right.
And then you can get to know her. I go, what if I did it on Valentine's Day and I asked her out after class, right? So I do a whole hour of love poems in a suit at Blackhawk in Black American literature, right? So, and then I have a rose afterwards and I ask her out, right? So she's like, yeah. So we go and we meet. She's like, I got practice, and so we'd have to do after practice. We meet. She comes to practice or comes to the coffee shop afterwards, right? I'm still in my suit because I haven't been home yet. Yep. She's in her sweats, and she like lays her head down on the table and she's like, I'm so tired. And like doesn't engage, interact at all. And it was like, I need something that's mentally stimulating in terms of a conversation. Like I need some personality here, right? So I was like, done, right? And then she actually called me and asked me out to go, and we road tripped because she knew I coached basketball and stuff. So, and she had played basketball, so we road tripped to watch, I think, the school she'd gone to's regional game or something. Bro, worst drive of my life. Like there was like nothing to talk about. Yeah. I mean, like I couldn't find a single topic to get anything. Nothing. There was nothing there, right? It was just bad. It was really bad. It's really, really bad.
So your main point is?
So my main point is that conversation is so important that
you know what I love about that?
What do you love?
The whole story is that you just came up with the safest answer you possibly could to that question.
Is that the safest?
That was the safest.
Oh, answer. I don't think it was the safest. I think there's a safer one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? We'll keep going. What else?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think...
So conversation's super important.
Super important, man. Yep. Yeah, super important.
You need to be engaging.
Right. I think the thing about Missy is that she was engaged in shared interests, right? So, like, she was running a day camp at the YMCA. I've been running a lunch program. She was going to be an educator. Yeah. I was planning on being a pastor. So, like, teaching, reaching young people. There was shared passion and interest there, you know? And so I think that was really important for us to connect on. And, you know, from my standpoint, I think all men are people who react to physical beauty, right? And so this is, okay.
I'm so glad you went there, bro.
So, okay. So 21-year-old Gerad, only picture I've seen of Missy is of her and two other friends where they're wearing these like black rim glasses with the fake noses, you know, like, and they've been out trick-or-treating at Halloween and they were all wet, right? So that's the only picture I've seen of her, right? So I don't really know what she looks like. And I'm shallow enough to admit that when I rode the L train out to Midway from downtown Chicago, that if I walked through that group and I saw this girl and I was like, this is a no-go because she's not attractive to me, I'm going to turn right back around and I'm going to get back on that train. I'm going to ride back to Chicago. Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I walked past. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's her. Again, I don't know because she's not wearing black rim glasses. But I was like, but she's cute. So I spun around. And I was like, hey, Missy. And she turned around, right? And we hopped in her hoopty van and went down to Starbucks and had a coffee.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So beauty mattered.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for men being attracted to women physically, that
but
almost,
I mean, we see
almost
this,
always leads.
We see this narrative in Scripture too. I mean, beauty matters.
Yeah, right.
We often do this, like beauty's vanity, it perishes, it fades away. That's absolutely true. What matters is what's inside, spiritually.
Right.
But if you talk to any guy, and I talk to guys looking for a spouse, you know how often I'm like, hey, you should get with, no, just not attracted to her physically.
Right.
I hear from both sides.
Yes.
I hear that constantly.
Right.
So again, with the target person that's listening right now being a single female or a single male,
right,
I want to be bold enough, and I understand that culturally the people be like, if you're a woman, and I'll say the hard thing that you probably, you know, I don't know if you would say this or not, but I'll say this. If you're a woman that desires to be married and you're looking for a biblical man, to look feminine and beautiful is important.
And I think when you're younger, that's probably more true.
Well, how old are you talking?
Well, I've known lots of single people who have gotten married at all kinds of different ages, ranging from 20s up until 50s and 60s. So I think there is a tapering effect that happens. And even like I'm thinking about one guy who even made the comment of like the other lady she'd been single her whole life.
Yeah.
He was a divorcee. And really for him at that point in his life, I think his kids were adults. It was the connection of relationship and the degree of how stimulating it was that actually he's like physically, like if I was in my 20s, it probably wouldn't have been a thing.
It probably intensified her attraction.
But in the 40s, like he's like, now it doesn't matter, right? So there was like, I think as men have less testosterone as they get older, it's not as much of a driver. And
that's true, but I think you're talking about a small percentage of people.
I'm just trying to talk about single people. Yeah, I think that.
And I think the majority of single people are 20 to 40.
I think if we're talking about 20s and 30-somethings, physical attraction is going to play a key role in the progression of the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I was saying was, I think that matters on how you put yourself together.
Yeah, I think that putting yourself together, define that for me, because I feel like there's a way that people are putting themselves together right now. That
like you need lip filler, you need injection.
Like the fake eyelashes, you know, like, and dudes spending a lot of time in the gym.
Yep.
And posting things on social media.
Yep.
You know, so I think there's got to be these boundaries to it, right? Like you should be put together, but you also can't prioritize it, right?
To look clean,
it's a dangerous temptation.
It is, but to look clean, and groomed,
sure,
right,
right,
and feminine, because culturally, we've talked about this actually in our small group. Different cultures find different things beautiful. Right,
sure,
feminine characteristics in one culture is not the same, but in American culture, there's certain things that are feminine.
Yeah.
And I'll even go so far to like, hey, if you show up as a woman and I look like didn't do anything to my hair, put sweatpants on and a baggy t-shirt, which I understand, that's life sometimes. But when you're trying to find a significant other, attraction does matter.
Right. Yeah. So like going back to that girl from Blackhawk, if she would have shown up to sweats when we were like dating,
right,
I would have been like, don't care. But for like it being like the first date,
right,
it was like, it doesn't quite seem like we've put the same amount of effort to get here today.
Yeah, and this is going to sound like legalistic to people, and that's not my point at all. But
I think what we're talking about is there's probably best practices.
Yes.
And then if you're at a point and you're going, okay, Lord, and I think we're both saying 100% spiritually you need to be in the right place.
Yeah.
First and foremost. And that personality-wise, you need to have a personality and be confident.
Yeah.
And then third, the physical follows, right? So like, don't twist what we're saying in terms of the prioritization here.
Yeah.
But making sure that you check all of the boxes and in that order, right?
Yeah.
And
let me say this about both sides.
Okay.
This is true for both. If I'm single and I'm trying to find a significant other, exercise and taking care of yourself is also crucial and important.
Okay, so you in a gym a long time.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of people get together.
Yep.
Through the gym, meet at the gym.
Yep.
Date at the gym.
Yep.
Maybe even somebody got married at the gym. I don't
Yep.
know. So, what were the upsides and downsides of that?
Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying. The upsides is, I mean, it was a great culture for people finding their spouses. I can't even tell you the list of people that found their spouses at our gym.
Yeah.
It's significant, but also the amount of affairs and the amount of bad things that came along with someone dropped a bunch of weight. Now they have this new self-confidence, so I'm leaving my husband because I found this new man. That happened actually quite a bit. So yeah, there's ups and downsides, but here's what's unequivocally true.
And see, that's my concern, right? Is that we have to make sure that as we say this, we let people know that while this is important, that you have to be on guard, right? That
From
your own heart.
From vanity.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, there's a difference between, that's a foundation. We talked about this in our health podcast.
Yeah.
Eating well and exercising is a foundational principle, I believe, for every Christian.
Right.
But specifically, guess what? When you're trying to find a significant other, it matters a little bit more, right? Yeah. That I don't let myself go, become significantly overweight, unhealthy, and then I want a supermodel, which I deal with this a lot, right?
Yeah, so Pastor Josiah is not saying lose yourself in the pursuit of physical beauty.
No, I'm saying be self-ruled. And I love that term because be in your devotions. Be active in the church, right? Exercise. Eat well.
Why do you like the term self-rule? If we can do there tangential, just for a second.
Yeah, because especially for men.
Yeah.
I think if men can't lead themselves well.
Yeah. See, I like that better.
Same thing. Self-ruled, lead themselves.
See, I think we need to be ruled by the Lord.
Absolutely, but that's what I'm saying.
But I don't think it sounds that way.
That's fine.
So, I mean, because you're saying ruled by self, right? I think leading yourself, being self-disciplined, that is better. I feel like...
You need to work out your own salvation.
Which is with fear and trembling.
Fear and trembling. Would you like me to say that instead?
Why? I don't...
It's an easy, short way to say that you need to be a disciplined man.
Yeah. It's confusing. To me, it's confusing.
Well, yeah.
Self-rule seems a little bit... Seems narcissistic.
No, it's actually from a book called It's Good to Be a Man. One of my favorite books, actually. But being a disciplined man in the Lord.
It's Good to Be a Man. Who's that by?
Michael Foster.
Michael Foster. Okay.
Brilliant book. But anyway, being disciplined, doing the things that we know that we're called to do.
Yeah.
Right? Church, God, our relationships to God, prayer, Bible, exercise. All of these things, I believe, are going to make a man more desirable to a woman. especially a biblical woman.
Yeah, and vice versa.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so it's the same for the other way.
Right. What would you say are some warning signs of when you need to call off a dating relationship?
Ooh, a dating relationship. Number one, if you can see that their faith is not genuine faith, this actually happens quite a bit.
Yeah, how would you tell that?
I think that, gosh, man, there's so many nuances to this.
Yeah, that's
right. Because a lot of people claim Christianity, but they're cultural Christians.
right.
They know the lingo, but they don't live the life.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember who did the study, if it was Barner or somebody else, but they came to the conclusion that a large percentage of the evangelical church were actually, when quizzed about theology, were actually moral therapeutic deists. And so what they found in the church was a structure of morality that made them feel better. That's the therapeutic part. And that their notion of God's identity was that he was a being that put things into existence, but you don't really have a personal relationship with that being.
Yeah, and let me give you an example of a situation that should be called off.
Well, and so what I'm saying,
life.
yeah, and so what I'm saying is that it's easy, I think, based on that research, to find somebody who's in the church, who's actually not a believer, but actually a moral therapeutic deist. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
but I was going to play out a real life scenario for people so they can see how this functions and can end up in chaos. Girl that I know, this is not Rock Church people, so my Rock Church people can calm down. Girl that I know meets a Christian guy through a dating app out of town.
Which app?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Not getting into that. I don't know the apps.
You don't have any apps to recommend?
No, I don't have any apps.
Yeah.
Meet on an app. They end up coming here. I end up getting to know them decently well. And the girl is what I would consider a cultural Christian in that she does go to church. I believe that she believes in Jesus.
Sure.
He's pretty on fire for the Lord.
Okay.
She makes a passing comment to me that, the relationship's going well, but I've just never been in a relationship where like he just doesn't want anything physically. And it's really weirding me out. And I'm like, oh, you mean he's a Christian? Right? Like, oh, he actually believes the Bible.
Oh my God.
And he wants to live the Bible. But dude, I think this is very common.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of friends who got married in their 30s, right? Yeah. So most of my closest friends have all got married in their 30s, right? So they had to date through their 20s.
Yep.
And there's some very interesting tales that I've heard told.
Because people get used to culture dictating how dating life goes. And dating life is hookup culture. It's let's get together, go on a few dates. I'll have sex with you in the third one.
Even right? A lot, like in like my one friend was telling me about, even they were at a church down in Southern Illinois, large college ministry. Even in the college ministry, very common. Very common.
Yeah.
Like if two people were serious in terms of like dating, they've already had sex.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So anyway, that's a perfect example.
And I was like, how old am I? Because this is shocking to
it's
me.
Crazy, dude. Even in high school. It's crazy.
Because the other thing that's weird is that early research of Gen Z is that they were less permissive as adolescents than millennials were.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, how bad were millennials? Yeah. Anyways, okay.
Well,
all right. So
what? I think this is honestly a good ending point.
This is good?
Because we just spent an hour on dating and relationship.
Okay.
And I think what I'd love to get to next time, per your idea, would be marriage and kids.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit. Do you do much premarital counseling?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk maybe next time about how you approach premarital counseling.
Yeah.
And some topics of conversation that you think are important to have and how to broach those well.
Absolutely.
You ever told someone during premarital counseling not to get married?
I haven't been given that scenario yet. But you know what I also find is that people don't usually come to me for premarital counseling unless they're pretty biblical Christian people. So
They play it safe.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Okay. But I like.
But
to
I'm
have
also
that
young in
conversation.
ministry. Dad has done a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
A lot more than I have.
Right.
So
You got a lot more coming.
got a lot more coming.
Would you rather do a funeral or a wedding?
A wedding? What do you mean?
Okay, great.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
You guys could please like, subscribe, and share. Please share the video. It'd be awesome. Appreciate it.